Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Data and Donuts. My name's Aaron, and I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Ben Gamboa. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Excellent. Well, I just wanted to have you introduce yourself a little bit because today we're going to be covering a variety of topics primarily related to CTE and how it relates to the utilization of data and how we help our planning. So thank you again for joining today. And if you'd like to share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the community colleges for about 20 years, and my career was started off in the classified space, working on the fiscal office, and then I found myself over in research, and that's where I really developed a love for implementing some real change across the college. And now I'm the associate dean of career education because with strong workforce, data really became a central component of some of the innovative work that the colleges are doing. And I absolutely love the work I do now. It's just every day is innovative and fun and heartwarming.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. So based on that, can you tell us a few key data points that your college uses in Perkins or strong workforce in their planning?
Yeah. Uh, so when we are planning for Perkins and Strong Workforce, we have a number of different metrics that we have to follow. But when we wanted to dig into really what is the why are we doing this work? What really drives us? We honed in actually on just one data point. We're looking at median annual earnings as kind of that space that if we were to move one metric, that's the metric we want to move. And that guides a lot of the work that we do. And specifically, what we're looking at in there is we're disaggregating on race and ethnicity. We decided that racial equity is paramount to all the work that we're doing, and it should be throughout everything that we plan and every little innovation that we do. And when we disaggregated by that data, we saw huge changes. At my previous institution, where I was also the associate dean of career education, it was really stark. And what we saw was that we had about $100,000. It was the average median wage. I'm sorry, it was the median wage, median earnings for white students who were graduating. But for Black students, it was $59,000. $59,000 is absolutely stellar outcomes, right? We should probably go home and celebrate because that's a living wage. But at $59,000, when our white students are making $100,000, there's something terribly amiss in what our institution needs to do about racial equity. So another reason why we wanted to focus in on that and why it was such a big deal is because talking about money creates passion, right? So we can have conversations internally about what we want to do, but that gets so technocratic. When we're talking with students, though, when we're talking with the community and we're talking about money, they get it. They understand what that means. And we're able to bring them into the story and into what we're looking to change and do at our college. And another really cool layer in this is that when you're talking about wages, in my initial conversations with faculty, they really didn't see that direct connection. They're like, that's what students are making after our program. We can't really change that. That's the decision of the employers. So it created that space for us to have dialogue and have conversations. And that's where we started to see some powerful changes at the college is around those conversations and why it mattered.
I think that's really key that you bring that up. And that's a great and emerging data point. And one of the hardest data points to collect, by the way, either it's self-reported data, if it's data coming from an outside source. A few of the sources I may suggest your way, EDD has this really cool one that they're putting out for projections all the way down to job level. They had 600 job levels by county, and it has like, do they get OJT? Do they get what's the starting level of education, the starting median pay? It's a pretty cool data point and a data set. Another approach we did in a study was we actually did a social security match with Equifax to actually see what's real income from 3 years back from students before starting and 3 years after to model that over time across our programs. And by demographic, I completely agree with your approach, Ben. That is a key component. Like same thing, we're seeing median wage gain, everyone has a living wage, but when you see that disparate gap between students and the differential parts of just race, ethnicity, things of that magnitude. And we're starting to also see that in technology with gender as well. And really, how do we close those gaps and part with our partnerships with our local businesses, with our industry partners, with our collaborative boards? But I really like your focus in your institution. I really feel that that's a testament to many other schools to say, how do we bring the focus back on equity? Which leads into our second question about how is DEI addressed in your Perkins planning and strong workforce DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion? And I know you touched on it a little bit. I don't know if you want to go a little bit further.
Yeah, it's actually a great segue right from that previous question, the conversations. What we found to be key in our planning process wasn't the fact that we did planning, because planning is boring. But what planning allows for us to do, right? It creates that space to have the conversations. So within our planning processes for strong workforce in Perkins on an annual basis, we created this space where faculty would actually come into my office, right? And we'd sit down and we would look at the different metrics and we would look at some of the racialized outcomes of those metrics. And we would have conversations. I would just ask questions. I'd play dumb to their programs and their curriculum and what they're doing in their classrooms. And we would have conversations like with my aviation faculty. I would talk about how we're getting students of color through those programs because they bring in a lot of ex-military folks. And so how are we creating those pathways? And then how are we also bringing in females into that population, right? So just asking some of those dumb questions, but really creating those conversations. And then they have their ideas of what they want to do with strong workforce in Perkins. But after I ask those questions, we're able to maybe tweak those ideas that they have. And then also encourage those conversations to occur in their industry advisory boards and get some thoughts from industry. And when you start talking about some of these equity items around gender and race, you start talking about some companies' diversity plans and the impact community colleges can have in helping employers reach their goals on their diversity plans. Things that were probably not talked about before, right? Some of our industry groups are just talking about technical skills, but really, how are we helping industry improve outside of just providing technical skills training? Also in those conversations, what I found, sometimes innovation happens in silos. So, and it happens in silos way too often. And we create boutique programs because of that. But when we have conversations and we're talking about these ideas together, as an administrator, I'm able to help connect the faculty in one program to the faculty in another program, or even the student services space, because there may be some collaborations that can occur and really connect those projects together. So that way we're leveraging not just financial resources out of strong workforce in Perkins, but we're also leveraging that human capacity. Just the time and effort it takes to be innovative and to try new things and to redo processes, that takes a lot out of folks. So, if we're able to pull in folks across programs and across the silos, we're creating more lasting change and we're increasing the capacity to affect real change.
I completely agree with everything you said there, especially bringing the cross-functional teams together, adding that diversity of thought, that perspective, that impact, as opposed to just saying, here's the metrics we're looking at, this is all we're doing. Really saying, how can we make the data work for us? How can we learn from our data? And really leading that question. Sometimes the questions seem rudimentary that we ask individuals, but they blossom into so many more open conversations. And as you said, they've taken your first, like what we call plans, our baseline plans, and actually help them scale across an institution. And that's really cool. And so leading to our third question is, can you just tell a story where, as you've alluded to earlier, how that you've utilized data, identified that opportunity, implemented it, and really was able to effectively tell that story?
Yeah. I'm really proud to be down in the San Diego region. We've been doing some really cool stuff at the regional level. Talking about how we're trying to leverage at the program level. How do we leverage at the regional level? So using data, we determined that it was time for us to really start tackling some of those persistent racial inequities across all of the metrics that we were seeing in strong workforce across all the colleges. And instead of relying on the colleges themselves to just tackle their own problems, we really determined that the career ed faculty needed training in culturally relevant teaching and learning. Our career education faculty are absolutely amazing at knowing their disciplines and what employees in those spaces need to know, those technical skills, and even some of the emotional intelligence skills. They do a great job at tackling that. But we still have those racial inequities. So how are we being culturally relevant in our teaching and learning? So as a region, we actually developed a faculty institute. There was a workbook that was developed that was 5 sections long, where faculty looked at the data specific to their sections and on racial, gender line, all demographics, right? Disaggregate across the board because we know what they're going to see, basically looking at their own classes. And then walking through the workbook, digging into each section, figuring out how students are retaining through the course, where students are dropping out. Are there ties to certain assessments or certain assignments or certain weeks where students might start dropping out? What that might mean in terms of how they have set up their assignments, or is there a way that they could reword their syllabus, be more culturally relevant for their students in setting up their assignments? What we saw from that, we had 250 participants from across the region, 25 faculty from every single college across the region participated in that. They completed that electronic workbook that had measurable action plans at the very end that they were able to leverage in strong workforce and Perkins planning. And what I saw come of that out of my college, I had faculty that just loved the experience. And they developed a local data and equity coaching community at the local college as one of those outcomes, where another 60 faculty went through a very similar workbook activity, and faculty were teaching faculty how to read their student level data and think about their teaching and learning in the classroom. Unfortunately, COVID-19 got in the way of some of that work. So we really weren't able to measure any across the board increases in our success rates in fall 2020 because of COVID. But there were some faculty, especially those that were really engaged in the work, who saw some modest increases in their section success rates. But one of the cool things from an administrator standpoint that I saw was increased comfort of multiple faculty across the disciplines talking about racial equity. Very comfortable talking about race and not seeing it as a deficit, but as a problem that could be resolved, that they could work on, and that they could work on together as a community, and that they weren't alone in their frustrations or their own confusions, that this was a problem that could be tackled. And I actually saw some faculty who participated in that coaching program, that data coaching program, go on to some additional faculty leadership roles in professional development in the academic senate because they were so impassioned about tackling equity. Just seeing faculty blossom like that was a real treasure. And I'm hoping that we start to see some of those outcomes in our success rates within the classroom as well.
I think that activity, that project that was put on by your region that you all helped lead and participate, that's amazing. Like, I just want to congratulate you, not just as a colleague, but as a friend. That is great job. That is awesome. I really hope you can share that out at various conferences. Like, that's like award status type of stuff. Like, that's amazing. And I really think it's something that we could all follow and copy and follow your lead on that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
that's cool. Like I said, I may ping you for any type of resources or whatever that we can share out. Or like I said, even just bring that up to the Orange County region or LA, whatever regions that are open and interested to hear what you did. Because like I said, I find that that's awesome. That's just, like I said, I sound like a broken record right now, but dude, that was the real deal. So going on to our two bonus questions. So my first question, very serious. What's your favorite type of donut? Without data and donuts, we have to clarify that first.
So I think my fallback, regardless of the donut shop I'm going to, I will go back to an old-fashioned donut with a nice maple glaze. I can always count on that making my day, nice, crunchy, crispy edges, soft middle. Like that is definitely my go-to. But down here in North County, San Diego, I have the Lucadia donut shop, and they have this blueberry donut that's basically a blueberry muffin turned into a donut with a simple sugar glaze on it. That is just that's a nice treat.
That's awesome. I was actually down in Lucadia. I was driving through San Diego from the airport, and that's awesome. That's super cool. I'm gonna stop there next time I go down your way. Like, so we don't have to grab a donut together. That's cool. So
absolutely cash only. So come.
Okay, good to know. Wow, that's original status, cash only. That's okay. I'll have to remember that. When was the last time you ever used cash? But right, I'll have to remember that though. So looking at bonus question number 2. So with the show called Data and Donuts, I keep on kind of reframing. Am I even saying it right? Because there's 1,000 different ways to say data. So I've heard data, so on and so forth. How would you say it? And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just helping me how I'm going to frame how we're going to call this program.
Right. So if we're talking about Star Trek, it's data. And I personally find myself going back and forth between data and data. I suppose it's just in context. I probably use data more often. Okay. But I think that what matters the most to me is that data is plural. So it's those data, not that data.
Correct.
So that might be my little pet peeve, my irregardless and irrespective pet peeve of plural data.
And usually when I'm in a conversation similar, if someone's like, the data here, and I was like, yeah, the data shows, like, so as opposed to like, the data to correct them. So no, I always want to frame myself correctly, but no, today was really fun. It was really cool hearing about the stuff you're doing, and it sounds like I need to take a trip down to San Diego and check out some of the stuff you're doing. So
we've got great surf, better than Orange County.
We'll see about that. I actually used to surf down there, so I may agree with you a bit until, like, this one time I totally saw a shark in the water, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But thank you again, dude. It was really fun to just sit here, chat, meet up again. And for those of you watching, thank you so much for watching today. I'll probably put Ben's contact information in the comments, and then also please feel free to subscribe and follow our channel. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming out. It was great to chat today. Have a good rest of your day.